everyone, and welcome to another episode of Esteban's Blood Box. I'm still here, still around. Another collection update today. As you all know, I've been doing a second job, been working a lot, so haven't had a lot of time, like I said in my last video, to do a lot of YouTube stuff lately, but I'm definitely still here. Still more coming in the future, and then once I get past the second job, there will be a lot more videos, and I'll be back in full swing. So, just another quick update on that. Update on me, second job's going really well. It's a lot easier than I thought it would be, so it's pretty laid back. Some long days, about 14-hour shifts every once in a while, but whatever, it's cool. The nice thing about it is, the extra cash is, helping us with bills, helping me pay down some debt and things like that, but it's enough where I also have some extra spending money. And because of that, I got a pretty decent-sized collection update today. And also, as of making this video, in case you all haven't heard, Season of Mist is putting out a vinyl box set of Windir's first 4 albums, or I guess only 4 albums. They just came out today, on Thursday. So I get paid tomorrow. Fingers crossed there's still a copy left so I can grab that, because I actually have the cash to be able to grab something that big for once. So we'll see. If the Fates decide I should have it, there will still be copies available tomorrow. If not, it's alright. So, anyways, yeah, things are going well. Thank you all for being here and sticking around. I'm just doing again, I haven't had a lot of time to go through all of these, so I'm going to show you what I got. Some things I know a little bit more about than others, but we'll just kind of jump in here. Start with, we're listening to Unnatural's newest release. I think it's actually it's a compilation of a demo and an EP. Actually, 2 EPs, 3 EPs as well. Finally broke this one out. Ken from Ken's Death Metal Crypt. This is his project. He's the singer of it, as you can hear whenever the next track comes on. He's absolutely fantastic. A hell of a death metal vocalist. This band is awesome. I've got their other stuff as well. He recently sent this to me, so I was really excited about it. I'm not sure if there's any copies left. It was put out by, I think it's Famine Records, if I'm not mistaken. Famine Records 666. Famine Records at bandcamp.com. So if there's still copies, definitely get yourself one of these, because it's absolutely incredible. Awesome, badass, old school death metal, riffage, all the good stuff. So that's what we'll be listening to in the background. We're just going to jump in. So, another shout out to the Dreadful Minutes. A good friend of mine, Rick Contreras, recommended this to me a while back. So, Wormwitch is a band. I've seen the album covers pop up everywhere, but hadn't actually listened to them yet. But I guess they recently just re-released their demo on cassette, which has been a rare thing to get in the past. And I think there's still copies up. Rick said, hey, this is up. It's one he had been wanting for a while. Recommended me check them out. Absolutely fell in love with it immediately. The demo is a little different than the other albums. I still have to dig into those little bits. Like he said when he was telling me about it, a little bit of an Uada black metal vibe. If you know Uada and are familiar with them, it's a similar vein of black metal. Not by any means the exact same, but like if you're into that, it's that same kind of maybe melodic black metal. For their newer albums, they have that vibe. The demo, on the other hand, is a lot more, it's raw, but interesting as hell. A lot going on in this, kind of hard to describe, but it's very intricate and interesting, and it really captures your attention fast and well through the entirety of it. And the cool thing about the re-release of this is, side 1 is the demo from 2015, and then side 2 has a bonus track, Coffin Birth, from 2016, and then the song Lord of Chains, live version of that from 2020. So, I think it's still up, not expensive. I think it's ballpark of, about $8 or so. So, if you're into Wormwitch, this is now available. If you're not, check them out. They're fucking fantastic. Probably going to be getting the vinyl of their newer stuff soon as well. So, check that out. Let's see, while we're on cassette tapes... So, a little bit Dungeon Synth here, some new Dungeon Synth stuff. I am a part of Rob Kabjian's Patreon. I'm a patron of his on Patreon. He's the guy behind the band 1476, which I think I've said before, I will do a video on them, highlighting them at some point in time. Killer band. They're under, I think it's Prophecy Productions is who they're with. If you haven't checked out 1476, check them out. Fantastic. 2 amazing, Well, they got more than 2 albums, but 2 recent albums that are just fantastic. But Rob is also a Dungeon Synth guy. He's behind the project Monastery, which you heard me talk about in the Dungeon Synth video. And I got early access to his new EP since I was a patron of his. And this is a cool thing. He's really into magic, not hokey stuff like legitimate magic and paganism and things like that. And his project through his Patreon is, I think he's writing a song a day, kind of going through his path of some of his notes and writings and maybe meditations and things like that. And he recently put out this EP. He's working on a larger album that's going to compile all of that together. But Dream Weapons Volume 1 is the EP he just released. Last I heard, there's still a few copies left. If you're a Dungeon Synth, and especially if you're a Monastery fan, grab one of these. Really cool packaging, beautiful artwork. He always uses wonderful artwork on his stuff. Because I had early access, I was the 4th one to get a tape here. But really cool stuff. Really interesting album. Not traditional Dungeon Synth by any means. It's there's more, I would say, electronic music. I mean, Dungeon Synth is synth. It's electronic. More like not EDM, but more moving synthesizer music, if you will. It's not as drawn out. Definitely, there's some movement, some rhythm behind it. So it's cool. I really, really love it. Might be one of my favorite things he's actually put out in a Monastery. So yeah, it comes with the tape, which is gorgeous. Comes in a sleeve. Let's see if we can get that pulled out here. I always have some trouble with sleeves, which you'll see again in a minute, because I got a box set that came in a sleeve, and it was a hell of a time getting it in and out, so I just kept it all out. No, I don't want to ruin the sleeve and mess with that. But yeah, white cassette tape, nice little sleeve that it's in. Also comes with a postcard, sort of explaining the project. Get the light here. Has an explanation of the Patreon and the project, little booklet. Also has some of the lyrics and things in there. More little postcard. Badass artwork, of course. Explanation of Patreon, which is, it's a really, really good Patreon page to follow. There's different tiers, of course, but there's a lot of information, a lot of interesting stuff. He posts a lot, and it's really good content. So, Patreons, depending on who you follow, there's really good ones. There's some that are kind of, it's a good way for them to collect some money, which is fine. That works. If you enjoy it, support people. But Rob and Monastery, he's put a lot of work into his Patreon, and he's been really consistent with it since it came out. I think it's been almost a year now. So it's a really, really good Patreon to follow. It looks like I also got a extra J card, which he had some lyrics, or it's either lyrics or notes. But that was super cool. I think this was something that just maybe just the patrons could get. Then also a ritual candle, which is part of the whole story behind all this. So go check that out. Learn more about it. He's a really, really fantastic artist in both 1476 and Monastery. His work is always really intertwined and intricate and involved in a really good way, and just really, really interesting stuff. So definitely check that out, of course. Moving right along here. I got these for free, which is pretty cool. There's a zine. I'm from Missouri originally, and I met this guy just through the channels of Facebook and metal groups and stuff. And he writes for a zine, Infernal Return. They finally got their first copies out, so I got a couple zines, true old school zines. These guys, I think, are a lot more into sort of the, what's it called? Blasphemy. What's their thing? War metal, I guess. I know they're big fans of that, so there's some of those bands in here. Talk about all sorts of new stuff, though. Looking forward to digging into these. I got these pretty quick back-to-back, so I'm excited about that. But Yada Love Zine's still around, still kicking. Anybody that's put in this much work to do some reviews is definitely worth checking out. So, Infernal Return is the name of them. They are on Instagram. It's just Infernal Return, maybe Infernal Return Zine. But yeah, good stuff. Really excited to check those out. Moving right along here. So, I was late to the game on this band, Swallow the Sun. I had seen this when I think it was released in, I want to say 2015, something like that. I had seen this 3 LP or 3 album that had come out. It looked really interesting. I kind of gave them a quick listen, didn't really catch my interest, and revisited them recently, and really, really fell in love with the music the second time around. And I've kind of been doing that lately. With these jobs, I've had a lot more time to just listen to music, just through Spotify and stuff. So I've been kind of going back, so I kind of been finding myself getting in the loop of the same stuff I always listen to. So I've been going back and checking out stuff that I'd seen or had been recommended, and through Spotify recommendations or whatever, and finally digging into them, and really fell in love, especially with this album. So this is that slipcase I was talking about. It's kind of hard to tell to get them out. So this is the slipcase for Swallow the Sun's Songs from the North 1, 2, and 3. Big fucking album here. It's technically one album in 3 parts. The first one is called Gloom. First one's called Gloom, album 2 is Beauty, album 3 is Despair, and sort of the purpose behind this album was they sort of have a softer acoustic side to them. There's definitely a doom side, borderline funeral doom, and just sort of like a dark metal vibe to them as well. So they came out with this album to sort of highlight all 3 of their genres. So the Gloom album is sort of just like your darker metal sound. Beauty is more of an acoustic album, and then Despair is the Doom album. Really gorgeous artwork on these. 2 are double LP, 1 is single LP. So let's see, get these in order here. Alright, so this is Gloom. This is the album cover for Gloom. Probably if you saw this online, this is the one that's used sort of as the main album cover. Beauty is number 2. That's this one. Use the same model for album. Absolutely gorgeous photographs. Really capture the ambience that's with these albums here. And then Despair, which is the Doom album, is this one. So, really fantastic music on all of these. I have been listening to them on Spotify. Was finally able to find a copy of this because I think they're sold out to the label. You can actually get this fairly cheap for being, as hefty as it is. I got this for about $45, I think, which is a pretty good price for, 5 records. So if you're into that sort of thing or looking for these, they're still around. And so through getting into this band, I started looking up their story a little bit, and it's a tragic story, unfortunately. But and I don't know their names. This is all pretty new to me with this band. But the lead singer was working on some Swallow the Sun stuff, and they have a few albums out before this one. But I think something along the lines of he was looking for a female singer for a part because they have a lot of guest musicians on this 3 record. And met this woman. It might have been the album before this too. I'm not 100% sure. But met this woman, loved her voice. She did one of the songs on the album, and the lead singer and her hit it off really well. Started working on some other projects, including she had a solo project, and they also ended up becoming partners, a couple, quite some time ago. Very much loved each other, as you can tell whenever you look up this story. But they did release, I want to say, I forget her name. Starts with an A. But anyways, so her solo project, this guy has another project, and then they both did a project. This is the only album that'll ever be out by this band, Trees of Eternity, which, this is another one of those, I did not know the connection between Swallow and Sun and this, but this is one I kept getting recommended through Spotify and Apple, and all these things were like, check out this album, you're going to love it, and I don't know why that just was recommended too much to me, so I just didn't pay attention to it. Finally listened to it. Up there in one of my all-time favorite albums. It is just absolutely gorgeous. It's doom metal with a beautiful, beautiful female vocalist. Absolutely ethereal, gorgeous, heartbreaking melodies and lyrics to this album. Trees of Eternity is the band, and Hour of the Nightingale is the album. So yeah, this is the guy behind Swallow the Sun, and the woman that worked on the The guest vocals on that, here it is, Alia. Alia is the woman's name. So she's the lead singer on this. Also has her solo project, which is just named Alia, which was put out post-mortem. So that's kind of the thing that happened with this, is she ended up passing away from cancer not too long ago, I think a couple years ago. And I think this was released either right after that or right before. Her solo album had not been released yet, but the guy who's in Swallow's Son, who was her partner, had all the material finished. It just hadn't been released. So he released that recently. And he was absolutely devastated by this. It's actually kind of hard to read his final message to her after she passed, because it's just heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And the last Swallow of the Sun album, to my understanding, and I'm going to be digging into this soon because I want to check this out, the band was a little iffy on putting out the album that just came out, not this one, the one that's after this, because it's really, really dark, because he wrote a lot of the music based on his, just his cathartic needing to get out what had happened with her passing and having to be around for that. But it has been well received, so I'm going to check it out. It'll be interesting. But it's absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous music. All of these projects, Swallow the Sun, Alia, her solo albums, more acoustic, kind of new agey. Trees of Eternity, again, this is a fucking amazing album if you've not heard it yet. And there's copies floating around. It was released originally, a few years ago, and then I can't find the label that has this out. Svart, I think it is, but I think they maybe are only selling in Europe. But you can find copies floating around. So get this while you can if you're interested, because they are going fast, and it'll probably be hard to come across again. So moving right along, very, very excited for this next one. As I've talked about in the Dungeon Synth video, Elffor is one of the artists who really got me into Dungeon Synth. It was that and Old Sorcery and a couple other albums. And Elffor is not just a Dungeon Synth artist, he also does a lot of black metal under the same name. And there's some crossover between the two genres. So this is his latest release, Unholy Throne of Doom. When this came out, it was all European. I just did not have the cash to fork out the shipping for it. Really, really wanted a copy of this because it's awesome. You definitely have some Dungeon Synth stuff going on there, but it's primarily black metal, kind of atmospheric, really heavy black metal. Only 4 songs, but really, they're long. I think they're 8 to 12 minutes apiece, and fucking fantastic. And luckily, I should have written this down. There is a Dungeon Synth label, not one of the ones I'm more familiar with, but they got some distros of these, and I got the very last copy that was available. And just because it's always fun to show some colored vinyl while we have it, I'll show you that here. Sexy, kind of swirly marbled gray on that. Elffor. Dungeon Synth stuff's fantastic. The black metal is equally as good. Really fucking love this album. Really stoked I was able to get a copy. Same thing, still floating around there. Keep an eye out if you're into Elffor. There might be some more copies somewhere, but killer album. Let's see. Put that down there. Oh yeah, I forgot I had gotten this. The stack's a little bit old now because since my last video, this stuff's been trickling in, and I've just kind of been setting it aside. So one of my favorite cheesy movies, and I'm sure it's many people's, this is not a unique or special thing to me, but The Crow. I fucking love that movie. Loved it when I was a kid, still love it. Watched it every Halloween and the rest of the year. Really bummed I missed the record store day release of it when it did come out. Was it last year? I think it was. Was really bummed because I love that soundtrack. It starts right off with The Cure. Burn. It's a B-side off of one of their albums. It's just a fucking great song. And of course, Trent Reznor covering Joy Division's Dead Souls. Fucking great cover. Absolutely love it. And then of course all the rest of the songs on there are great too. So I lucked out because there was a re-release of it that I knew nothing about this last October. And a record shop that I used to go to all the time in Chicago called Bucket of Blood Records. Because of COVID and everything, they have been doing pre-orders online for stuff that they would usually just do in store. And they were able to get a handful of copies, so I got it. I got the second run of Brendan Lee, whatever, The Crow soundtrack. yeah, really, really stoked about this. To my understanding, it's pretty much the same as the first one, except it's 2 just black LPs instead of 1 black, 1 white, like the original Record Store Day one was. It is an official release. This was not, to my knowledge, a part of the Record Store Day this year, even though that was happening around the same time. This was just a second release of this. And to my understanding, a pretty damn quiet release of it, too. I mean, this is an album a lot of people have been wanting to get their hands on. I mean, I know the Record Store Day one was something like 9,000 copies, which is a lot for a release. It's sold out almost everywhere almost instantly, and they're going for $150. Damn flippers. But, yeah, it was a really popular one, so I don't really know how this one slid under the radar. Luckily, Bucket of Blood posted about it and said, hey, we're going to have some if you want to pre-order. So I was able to snag one, and I'm really excited about that because I love this soundtrack. I love this movie. Hey, and shout out to Bucket of Blood Records, too. I love my Minneapolis record stores, of course, but Chicago also has some fantastic ones, and Bucket of Blood is one of the best. Really cool little shop, lots of metal and lots of other music, too. They also have graphic novels, horror movies, just regular novels, just all sorts of cool stuff. So if you're ever in Chicago, trust me, check out Bucket of Blood Books and Records. So, yeah, really love this album. The only thing I will say is the song It Can't Rain All the Time, which is the final song on the soundtrack by Jane Siberry, I don't know who that is I can't stand that fucking song. It's so god-awful. It's so bad. And it took the cheesiest fucking line from the movie and made it into a song. It can't rain all the time. Oh, God, it's so fucking corny. But, worth it. I still love it. Alright, moving right along. Okay, so next 2 records. This is why I had a disclaimer at the beginning of the video, just because, I don't want to accidentally bombard somebody who doesn't want to see some very graphic imagery with graphic imagery. So be aware the next records I'm showing are very, very, very graphic, okay? So either fast forward or stop watching if you don't want to see this. But these are 2 albums. Very excited to finally get my hands on. These are going in the Blood Box. So I'll just go ahead and explain the Blood Box a little bit. We'll do a showing of that at some point in time. But it's basically a box that I put my records in that I don't want, if someone's over here looking at records and stuff, I don't want them to accidentally come across. It usually has to do with graphic imagery. That's primarily what it is, why it's called the Blood Box. But yeah, I don't want somebody flipping through and coming across, a really graphic image of some gore or some shit. Just out of respect. Want people prepared before they come across it. And these albums are definitely ones that are good to not be bombarded with if you're not expecting it. So, Pissgrave. Really nasty-ass, raw death metal. Fell in love with it the first time I heard it, and I mean, it is just nasty, grungy stuff, but there's something about it, it's done so damn well that it's exploded. I mean, I'm sure you all have heard of Pissgrave by now. Very well-respected bands, just taking off big time. And they use very graphic images, as I keep saying. So, the demo was finally released on vinyl, I think for the first time, and I got my hands on that. So here is the Pissgrave demo, released by Profound Lore. What's really cool about these 2 is once these, sell out, any version of them, or any of their records, they go for a lot of money. But when you get them new, I think this was $16. So really cheap record. Just killer stuff. All of their albums are great. Even the demo is just fucking awesome. Just black, just plain black. Nothing crazy or special about that, which is fine with me. That's kind of how I think this music should be. Or how these records should be. Oh, there's my download code. Just take that out. But yeah, killer stuff. There's the dudes. So yeah, I got the Pissgrave demo. I guess just called demo. And so I pre-ordered that when I saw that was coming out on Profound Lore because I knew it would sell out fast. And then while I was at Down the Valley, which is one of my go-to because it's close to my work, down in the valley in Golden Valley here in Minnesota, just outside the city. They get a lot of great metal in. They're metalheads there, so they've got a whole section. And I had no idea this one got re-released, but their first official album, Suicide Euphoria. So finally snagged that too. Another one for the Blood Box. I have no idea where these dudes get the imagery, or where they get the photographs for their albums. I'm pretty sure they're all crime scene photos. As you can see, that's gory as hell. first one was too. The third one, which I've had for a while, our second full album, is just one of the hardest album covers to look at, even over like Dawn of the Black Hearts by Mayhem or something. It's definitely gives it a run for its money. But yeah, I guess they're getting these from Forensic Files or something. But yeah, disgusting shit, man. Really disgusting shit. But the music is fucking fantastic, and I think that's kind of where everybody's at with it, because I've seen a lot of people who usually aren't into this stuff and certainly would be turned off by the imagery, really still fucking love the music. So, these guys are just doing it right. They know what they're doing, and they're doing a fantastic job with the music they are. So, stoked to have those. We went to Hammerheart the other night. Socially distanced, of course, just a few people around. But we just kind of wanted to get out, and luckily there weren't a lot of people there, so we had a few beers. While I was there, I went ahead and picked up this from Bind Rune Recordings, because Hammerheart has a lot of the Bind Rune releases there for purchase. Excited to get this, been seeing this one a lot. A recent release from Bind Rune, this is Eave. The album is, I think it's called Phantoms Made Permanent, but killer stuff. I got the CD over there too, it came with it, as Bind Rune's been doing lately. Haven't dug a lot into this one yet, but I've been wanting to get my hands on it for a while, so I went ahead and picked it up. One of the most beautiful colored vinyls I've ever seen. It's going to be hard to see here. Let's see if I can get some light on it. Yeah, it doesn't completely do it justice, but it's almost the exact same shade of, I don't know if it's turquoise or blue as the album, but it's the smoky, just absolutely gorgeous color. Not a color I've seen before. It's not really showing up well out here, so it doesn't really do it justice, but gorgeous, gorgeous colored vinyl. Yeah, Eve, to my understanding, black metal, just good, modern black metal, definitely fits the Bind Rune feel quite a bit. Really love what I've heard so far, but I haven't dug a lot into it yet. It's definitely on my listen list for soon. But yeah, Eve, Bind Rune, good stuff. Okay, another album that I've been wanting to get my hands on for quite some time. Finally found an affordable copy of it, and that is The Damned's Phantasmagoria. Great fucking album. I don't actually know a lot about The Damned. I'm pretty sure they started off primarily as a punk band, I think. Death rock maybe, which if you're not familiar with death rock, it's kind of the rock and roll style with death and horror as themes. But I would say, this is definitely death rock, but I would say this is also a goth album from the 80s for sure. It's got everything. Not one I've heard talked about a lot in the goth scene, but it's one I think is up there with, I'd even say put it up there with Bloodlands by Sisters of Mercy. Just a really, really killer album. Looks like this was a promo copy, probably a radio promo back in the day. But it's pretty roughed up, but it's listenable enough, which is fine. It wasn't very expensive at all, so I'm always keeping my eye out for another cleaner copy of this, but it works. But yeah, very goth. I love it. If you haven't heard it before, the day after I got this in the mail, this album was finally put up on Spotify, so you can listen to it on Spotify now, which had not been up there for quite some time. So, and to my knowledge, I don't think they did. Now, I don't know a lot about The Damned. I know they were a pretty big band for the scene that they were in, but I think this is maybe one of the only albums that they went straight up goth for. They always had sort of a dark, spooky vibe to them, definitely looked goth, but from the little stuff I've listened to some of their other albums, this one had a purpose and fulfilled it with the goth scene. Calligraphy and all is fantastic, so really excited to have this one. Alright, a couple more. Whew, I got it hot in here. We got the heat on, so it's freezing as hell up here in Minnesota. So we got our radiators on. Okay, this one, another one I've wanted for a while. Just have not wanted to fork out the cash for Opeth records. I'm not a particular fan of their newer stuff. I am a fan of their earlier work. It's pretty common with a lot of people, I know. I respect their newer stuff. I know some people absolutely hate it. I think they're amazing musicians. They're going down the path they want to go down, which is totally cool. Their vibe, totally get it. But I love the earlier death metal stuff. Finally got my hands on a copy of Orchid. It's the one that just came out recently. Absolutely beautiful album. It's their very first album. it was cool reading the thank you credits on this, because I think like Catatonia, I think John from Dissection was thanked on here. A bunch of those early black metal dudes are in the thank you section of this album. But it's gorgeous. It's got raised on the top there. And of course, it's a beautiful color. Let me get it pulled out here and I'll show you. Maybe. Alright, there we go. Yeah, gorgeous color to fit the album cover. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's a really great album. Really love it. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of forking out the cash for Opeth albums. Because this, God, I think it goes for close to $50 now. It's a beautiful album. It's great. I don't really understand why they're selling for so much, because other than the content that it is, it's a regular gatefold, really good quality, but it's just really expensive for Opeth albums. But I got this one for $20. It was apparently a used copy. I don't know why they said that, because it was still sealed, from my understanding. They might have resealed it, but everything's in perfect condition on it. So, hey, $20 is fine for me. So, good snag on that. Great album. Alright, and finally, one of my last pre-orders before COVID, and I've been waiting on all these to come in. The last one finally trickled in from somewhere over in Europe. Another Dungeon Synth project, Northfalk. Really, really love this album. 5 songs, I think, so kind of short. Was surprised this got a vinyl release. Just being Dungeon Synth and everything. But Hayden's Heart, which is a great label, decided to put this out on vinyl. This is really good stuff. I don't know. And feel free to, if you know this, answer in the comments. I know in Dungeon Synth there's something called Winter Synth, and to my understanding, I think it's just like music that fits the vein of being dark and gloomy and wintry for Dungeon Synth. I'm not sure, but I think this might fall under that category. But it definitely uses, I get some heavy 80s soundtrack vibes to this, like 80s horror maybe, not quite as harsh as some of the horror soundtracks, but that kind of synth work from the 80s. Really love it. Pretty repetitive music, but it works for what it is. That's kind of why I like it, is you can put it on, and like if I'm working on art or something, this is a great one to put on in the background. I think this is one of the more liked albums from this band, but I don't know a lot about them. I dig one of their shirts too, though. That's one I wear quite a bit. I love the album artwork and the shirts for it, so was really excited to get this. Finally came in. Super. Oh, that's my train of thought. I was going to say something about that. Super something. It's super good. It's super fucking good. But yeah, killer album. Definitely check that out. The it's actually just called, I think it's Atmosphere, but spelled Atmosfeer. So, check that out if you haven't heard of this band. I think that's it. I think that's it for today. There's my collection update. Got a lot of things I've been wanting to get for a while. I've actually got a few more things coming in the mail. Another Opeth album, which I'm excited about, that I'll show you next time. So more things coming, and I'll do another update soon. Thank you all for hanging in there. Like I said, I have not gone anywhere. Just sparse videos while I'm doing the second job. I'll hop in every once in a while when I've got some time. And then once I get past that, I'll be back full swing, more videos, a lot more going on. Last thing I wanted to tell you guys, if you've not heard of this yet, it was interesting because Patrick Wilding, I think it's Patrick Wilding, but Ground Zero Salem, the channel. I had forgotten about another channel that he had posted on Facebook recently called Chromium Dioxide Radio. And I had heard of it before, sort of checked it out one time, but he posted something about it on Facebook the other day saying, hey, check this out, it's worth it. So I went on and checked it out again, and I have, on my breaks at work, been watching the shit out of this channel. If you've not heard of the YouTube channel, Chromium Dioxide Radio, go check it out right now. It's one of the best fucking things on YouTube. Back in Missouri, when I was in college, living in my studio apartment, there was an old show that used to come on called, not old, it was just something at the time, called Uncle Gregory's Horror Hour. It's one of those, like, you know, they watch an old movie, and it's kind of mystery science theater-y, and it's low budget, but done really well, and it got canceled, but I missed that show so much, because I loved watching that. It was on late at night at like 11:30, 12 o'clock. I'd drink some beer and watch that, and I missed the hell out of it. This show reminds me a lot of that, or any of those sort of late nights, much better than public access TV, but that sort of intentional, cheesy, and griminess of that kind of stuff. This guy's, well, I think it's a group of people. I know they all do a magazine or something together, but the production on these videos is insane. Most of the videos run about 6 to 8 minutes, so they're not very long, but the amount of information and entertainment that is involved in the 6 to 8 minutes, you get a lot out of it, and it feels a lot longer than that in a really good way. It is one of the funnest things I've ever seen, and I'm obsessed with this channel now. So I'm just telling you about it because you gotta go sub this channel. These guys should be getting paid well to be doing what they're doing and the amount of work they're putting into this and how just damn good it is. So, of course, I'll post links down at the bottom, so check that out. But, yeah, check out that channel. Alright, I think that's enough of me blabbering on about stuff. Thank you for watching, as usual. I will be back. Love you all. Hope you're all staying safe out there. And, oh yeah, fuck Trump. We're done with that shit. Fuck that motherfucker. We did it. Alright, love you all. Talk to you soon.